Every NHL team's GOAT. For those of you unfamiliar with the term GOAT in sports, it pretty much means the greatest of all time. And for those of you who have been subscribed to the channel for a while, you know I love to do the one from every team videos, so I thought today, why not make the ultimate one from every team video and talk about the greatest player of all time from all 31 NHL teams. And a quick disclaimer before I actually get into the video, I made a couple of rules when putting this list together. I cannot use the same player twice. So for example, I'm not going to have Gretzky for the Edmonton Oilers and for the LA Kings. And also, I'm only talking about current NHL franchises. So teams like the Quebec Nordiques, the Hartford Whalers, or the Minnesota North Stars, they're not going to be featured in here. And all the players' stats and accolades that are going to show up on the screen are only from the time that they spent with that franchise. Because a lot of players I am going to talk about did play for multiple teams. So the stats and accolades I'm showing are only for the time that they spent with the team that I have them chosen for. So with all that being said, hopefully it avoids any confusion, and now let's get right into today's video. Kicking the video off with the Anaheim Ducks, and my pick for them is Teemu Selanne, who played for the team from the 1995-96 season all the way up until the 2013-14 year. Selanne is the all-time Ducks leader in points with 988 and second all-time in games played with 966, and I'm sure Ryan Getzlaf is going to pass Selanne in points, but still right now I think Selanne is their greatest of all time. Selanne won the 1998-99 Rocket Richard when he scored 47 goals and also was a member of the team that won the Stanley Cup in 2006-2007. Selanne is definitely one of the most likable NHL players of all time and one of the greatest of all time. Moving on now to the Arizona Coyotes, and my pick definitely has to be Shane Doan. I feel like he's kind of the only right answer for this one. He's the franchise's all-time leader in games played by a long shot with 1,466 games played, and he's also the franchise's leader in points by a long shot with 955. Jeremy Roenick is second on the list at just 379. Shane Doan had an amazing career, and I think 100% without a doubt he is the greatest player of all time to play for the Phoenix/Arizona Coyotes. Next up we have the Boston Bruins, and my pick for them is defenseman Bobby Orr. Now there are a lot of really good options for the Bruins. They're a storied franchise, an original six team, and have a ton of legends that have played for the team. But to me, in the short amount of time that Bobby Orr played in the NHL, he is one of the greatest players of all time. He's fifth all time in Boston Bruins scoring with 888 points, and he did that in only 631 games. He was a three-time Hart Trophy winner with the Bruins, a two-time Art Ross, an eight-time Norris Trophy winner, and a two-time Stanley Cup champion, and in both of those cup finals he won the Conn Smythe. He also won a Rookie of the Year with the Bruins and gave us one of the greatest photos in sports history. Moving on now to the Buffalo Sabres, and my pick is the Dominator Dominik Hasek, who is widely regarded as one of, if not the greatest goaltenders of all time. Dominik Hasek played 491 career games with Buffalo, had a record of 234 wins, 170 losses, and 70 ties or overtime losses. He also had a 2.22 goals against and a ridiculous .926 career save percentage with the Buffalo Sabres. Throughout his time in Buffalo, Hasek was a two-time William M. Jennings winner, a six-time Vezina Trophy winner, and a two-time Hart Trophy winner as league's MVP. As a goaltender, that's super impressive, and you really just don't see it happen too often anymore. From the Calgary Flames, another one where I feel like there is only one right answer, and that is Jarome Iginla, who played for the Flames from the 1996-97 season all the way up until the 2012-13 year. Iginla was the man in Calgary for a very long time. He holds a lot of the franchise records, the most games played at 1,219, the most goals at 525, and the most points at 1,095. Iginla won the Art Ross Trophy in the 2001-2 season and was a two-time Rocket Richard winner throughout his time in Calgary. Next up we have the Carolina Hurricanes, and my pick definitely has to be Eric Staal. Carolina, not a historic Original Six franchise. They haven't been around for too long, but I feel like as of right now, Eric Staal definitely has to be their greatest player of all time. He played 909 games with the team and has a franchise-leading 775 total points. He was a member of the Stanley Cup winning 2005-06 Carolina Hurricanes and played a massive role in that playoff run where he had 28 points in 25 games. For the Chicago Blackhawks, my pick definitely has to be Stan Mikita. May he rest in peace. Definitely one of the all-time greats and is far and away the leader in games played for the Chicago Blackhawks and is also the franchise leader in points with 1,467. with. Nikita played a total of 21 seasons with the Chicago Blackhawks and won the Art Ross Trophy on 4 different occasions, the Lady Byng twice, and also the Hart Trophy as league's MVP twice. Chicago is a very storied franchise. They've been around for a very long time and have a ton of NHL legends that have played for the team, but in my opinion, Stan Mikita is their GOAT. For the Colorado Avalanche, my pick is their current general manager, Joe Sakic, who played for the team from 1995-96 all the way up until the 2008-9 season. Remember, I am only including his time with the Avalanche, not when they were the Quebec Nordiques. Sakic is the Avalanche all-time leading scorer with 1,015 points and won the Hart Trophy in the 2000-2001 season, was a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, and won the Conn Smythe as playoffs MVP in the 1995-96 playoffs. Sakic had an amazing playing career, and he's not doing too bad of a job as Avalanche GM either. Next up, we have the Blue Jackets, and I feel like some people may disagree with this one, but my pick is Rick Nash, but I do not blame anyone, and I won't argue with you guys if you think it should be Sergei Bobrovsky, because he's definitely a great answer. But for me, just thinking about their franchise, I just feel like Rick Nash was the man there for such a long time, and he's kind of their greatest player of all time, at least at this point. He's their franchise leader in points with 547, and he also won the Rocket Richard Trophy for leading the league in goals in the 2003-4 season. Moving on now to the Dallas Stars, and my pick easily has to be Mike Modano, who played 1,142 games with the team as the Dallas Stars. I'm only including his time when they were Dallas, not the Minnesota North Stars. He had 434 total goals for Dallas, 616 assists, and 1,050 points. He was also a member of the Stanley Cup winning team in 1999. Modano had a fantastic NHL career. It is a shame he wasn't able to hit 1,500 games played, but you can thank Mike Babcock for that. For the Detroit Red Wings, a storied franchise with a ton of legends, but my pick is Gordie Howe. May he rest in peace, but man, did he ever have an amazing career. His name is Mr. Hockey for a reason. He played a total of 1,687 games for the Red Wings and tallied 1,809 points, which is just ridiculous. He was a 4-time Stanley Cup champion with the Red Wings and won the Hart Trophy and the Art Ross 6 times apiece. Edmonton Oilers, I mean, come on, it's definitely got to be the great one, Wayne Gretzky, the greatest player to ever live, and he definitely did most of his damage throughout his career, at least success-wise, with the Edmonton Oilers, where he played 696 games and had a total of 1,669 points. He was a 4-time Stanley Cup champion. He won the Conn Smythe twice, the Art Ross 7 times, the Hart Trophy 8 times, and the Lester B 5 times, which is basically what the Ted Lindsay is now. This one didn't need any explaining, but I thought I would do it anyway. For the Florida Panthers, a team that hasn't really been around a while, I went with Jonathan Huberdeau, but I will give a big honorable mention to Barkov, who's probably the better overall player right now, but I think overall Huberdeau has been their greatest player of all time. He won the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year in 2012-13 and is the franchise leader in points with 424. And the way he's been playing over the past 2 seasons, I don't see that changing anytime soon. For the Los Angeles Kings, another one where I feel like there definitely is only one right answer, and that is Marcel Dion, who is the franchise leader in points with 1,307 in 921 games, and as of right now, I think he's honestly the best player of all time to never win a Stanley Cup. He won the Art Ross Trophy in 1979-1980 and won the Lester B Trophy twice, which again is like what the Ted Lindsay is now. And a pretty cool fact about Marcel Dion is he actually now owns a sports memorabilia shop in Niagara Falls where you can go in and meet him yourself. Moving on now to the Minnesota Wild, a team that has only been in the league since 2000, and their GOAT in my opinion definitely has to be Mikko Koivu, just because he's been there for such a long time. He's never really been a superstar, but he's been a very good player for them basically ever since coming into the league. He's played in 1,008 games and has 701 total points. Doesn't really have any accolades to mention because again, he was never really a superstar caliber player, but I think as of right now, he is definitely the greatest Minnesota Wild player of all time. Moving on to one of the most storied franchises in NHL history, the Montreal Canadiens, and my pick is John Beliveau. The longevity, the success, everything about his career was just amazing. He won 10 Stanley Cups with the Montreal Canadiens. He won 2 Hart Trophies. He won the Conn Smythe in 1964-65 and won the Art Ross in the 55-56 season. He finished his career with the Montreal Canadiens with 1,125 games played and 1,219 points, which puts him second all time in the franchise's points list. Moving on now to another team that hasn't been around too long, and that is the Nashville Predators, and my pick for them definitely has to be goaltender Pekka Rinne, who has been one of the better goaltenders in the NHL for it seems like forever now. Even though he's not having the greatest season right now, he still has had an amazing amazing career, and he spent the entire thing with Nashville. Rinne has played 652 career games, has a record of 357 wins, 197 losses, and 73 ties or overtime losses. He also has a 2.40 career goals against and a .918 save percentage, and won his first Vezina trophy of his career in the 2017-18 season. For the New Jersey Devils, a pretty easy pick here. It's going to be goaltender Martin Brodeur, who is first on the all-time wins list in NHL history, not just for the Devils, but of any goaltender of all time, with 691 wins. His career record with the Devils is 688 wins, 394 losses, and 154 ties or overtime losses to go along with a 2.50 goals against and a .912 save percentage. And like Marcel Dion, Brodeur has found something to keep him entertained in his pro hockey afterlife, and that is enterprise commercials. I'm sure you guys have seen him in one or two of them. For the New York Islanders, my pick is Mike Bossy, who didn't necessarily have the longest NHL career, but when he was playing, he was most definitely one of the best players in the entire NHL and will go down as one of the best players of all time. He finished his career with 752 games played and 1,126 points. Bossy also won the Calder Trophy in 1977-78. He was a 4-time Stanley Cup champion and won the Conn Smythe as playoffs MVP in the 1981-82 playoffs. Moving on to the New York Rangers, and my pick for them is defenseman Brian Leetch, who finished his career second on the all-time points list for the New York Rangers with 981. And remember, he's a defenseman. He had an amazing career for them. Leetch won the Calder for Rookie of the Year in 1988-89. He was a 2-time Norris Trophy winner with the Rangers and won the Stanley Cup in 1993-94 and won the Conn Smythe as playoffs MVP. For the Ottawa Senators, this might be an unpopular pick, but I'm gonna go with Daniel Alfredsson, but of course a huge honorable mention to Erik Karlsson and also Jason Spezza because he was amazing for them too. But in my opinion, Daniel Alfredsson is the greatest Ottawa Senator of all time. He finished his playing career with the Senators with 1,178 games played and 1,108 points. And he was also a massive part of the Ottawa Senators team that made it to the Stanley Cup Finals against the Anaheim Ducks, and that stands as Ottawa's only finals appearance in franchise history. For the Philadelphia Flyers, a pretty easy pick here. It's got to be Bobby Clarke, who is one of the greatest NHL players of all time and a great role model for athletes with diabetes. Bobby Clarke finished his career with the Flyers with 1,144 games played and 1,210 points. He won the Hart Trophy on 3 different occasions. He won the 82-83 Selke Trophy and was a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Moving on to the Penguins, and my pick is Mario Lemieux. Some people may say this should be Sidney Crosby, but I think this label still definitely goes to Super Mario, who a lot of people look at as the second greatest NHL player of all time behind Gretzky. Lemieux finished his playing career with the Penguins with 915 games and had 1,723 points. That's a ridiculous points per game. Lemieux was also a 6-time Art Ross winner with the Penguins, a 3-time Hart Trophy winner, and a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, and he won the Conn Smythe in both of those Stanley Cup wins. The Sharks were a tough one for me. I ended up giving it to Joe Thornton, but obviously a huge honorable mention to Patty Marleau, who is the all-time leader in games played for the Sharks and in points with 1,099. But Marleau was never really a superstar, and for a very long time, Joe Thornton was just that. He was a superstar for the Sharks. He has 1,043 career points for the team in 1,084 games. But the one thing that has eluded Joe Thornton is the Stanley Cup, and with the way the Sharks are playing this year, it's looking like his time is kind of running out. For the St. Louis Blues, my pick is Brett Hull, one of the greatest goal scorers in NHL history, who finished his playing career with the St. Louis Blues with 744 games played, 527 goals, which is first on the St. Louis Blues all-time goals list, and 936 total points. He also won the Hart Trophy and the Lester B in the 1990-91 season. Unfortunately for Brett Hull, he wasn't able to win a Stanley Cup in St. Louis, but he was able to win multiple with Detroit later in his career. For Tampa Bay, man was this one ever difficult. I went with Marty St. Louis, but I don't blame any of you guys if you think it should be Vinny Lecavalier. He would obviously be an amazing pick as well. Both of these guys are definitely the 2 greatest players of all time to play for Tampa Bay, but since I had to choose one, I did go with Marty St. Louis, who finished his Tampa Bay playing career with 953 points in 972 games. He won the Hart Trophy and the Lester B in the 2003-04 season, along with the Stanley Cup, and won the Art Ross Trophy on multiple occasions for the Tampa Bay Lightning. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, my pick is Dave Keon. I know Matt Sundin is the franchise leader in points, but I did take overall accolades and career success into this, and when you consider that Dave Keon won 4 4 Stanley Cups with the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think I had to give him the edge. He played 1,062 games with the Leafs and had 858 career points. He won the Calder Trophy in 1960-61 and won the Conn Smythe as playoffs MVP in 1966-67. For the Vancouver Canucks, I wanted to pick both Sedin twins, but that would kind of be cheating, so I just went with Henrik since I had to pick one. He's first on the all-time points list for the Canucks with 1,070 points, and also first in games played for the Canucks with 1,330. He won the Art Ross Trophy in the 2009-10 season and won the Hart Trophy in the 2009-10 season as well. Henrik and Daniel are definitely the two best players to ever play for this franchise, and you can't really talk about one without bringing up the other. For the Golden Knights, in their short time, I definitely have to go with Marc-Andre Fleury, who has pretty much been the face of that franchise ever since the expansion draft, and he has played very well for them as well. He's played 142 career games for Vegas so far, has a record of 83, 45, and 13, and a 2.51 goals against and a .916 save percentage. He doesn't have any accolades because it has only been 2.5 years, but he did lead the team to the Stanley Cup final in their inaugural season. The Washington Capitals, no surprise here, it's the Great 8 Alexander Ovechkin. In my opinion, he is the best goal scorer to ever play the game. I'm pulling for him to break Gretzky's goal record, and I personally think he's going to do it. He's played 1,133 games with the Washington Capitals and has 1,261 points. Ovi has obviously had a ton of individual success, but he finally capped all that off by winning the 2017-18 Stanley Cup with the Washington Capitals and playing a huge part in that, winning the Conn Smythe. And now to finish out the video with the Winnipeg Jets, I'm going with Dale Hawerchuk. I am including the retro Winnipeg Jets in this just because it's the same team name, technically the same team franchise, so I thought I might as well. If we were only doing the current Jets, I would give it to Blake Wheeler, but since it's combined, it's gotta be Dale Hawerchuk, who had 929 career points with the Jets in 713 games and won the Calder Trophy for Rookie of the Year in 1981-82. If we're talking all-time Jets, Dale Hawerchuk is definitely their GOAT. So that is finally going to wrap up today's video. I really hope you guys did enjoy. I think this is the hardest I've ever worked on a video, so if you guys could, if you did enjoy, make sure to go down there and smash the like button and let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. And with all that being said, thank you guys so much for all the support lately. I really do appreciate it, and if you guys have not already, make sure to subscribe to the channel for daily NHL content, and I will see you guys all in the next video.